Secretary Peary, Premier, Honourable Ralph T. O'Neill, Mrs. Idris O'Neill, distinguished guests, VISAR volunteers and crew, ladies and gentlemen, and boys and girls, welcome. A brief history of VISAR would not go amiss at this event today. This official ceremony as such has been way too long in the planning, obviously restricted by the fact that we didn't actually have a boathouse, so it's been long and an arduous road to get to where we are today. So as I say, a brief history of VISAR, if you like. During the 70s and the 80s there was a worldwide entity known as the Power Squadron, and their function was to teach seamanship, navigation, rules of the road, nautical etiquette and so on. And a BVI chapter of this Power Squadron was in existence during the same period, and doing the same thing here in the BVI. But the BVI chapter's interest began to wane, and by the mid-80s it pretty much languished. Several of its members, however, continued to monitor radios and so on in a rudimentary SAR capacity. Tortola Radio was functioning at that time, and they had a list of contacts if there was ever an emergency. Following a review of the disaster preparedness of the BVI by the UK, it was pointed out that these beautiful islands were surrounded by sea and serviced by boats and planes, but there was no official search and rescue in place. So the government of the day approached several members of the community that had been informally involved providing that service in the persons of George Forster, Jim Scott, Bill Draper, and asked them to formalise an SAR organisation. George and Jim then approached Barney Crook, Chuck Hunter, Mike McFarlane, to name but a few, and they set about putting together us, Virgin Islands Search and Rescue as you know us today. They would meet monthly at Fort Burt for lunch and make plans. They set about writing protocols, finding people, separating those people into what at the time were called action and coordinators. There were funds left over in the kitty from the defunct Power Squadron, and with the first major donation from Caribbean insurers of $5,000, we were able to buy our first Spirit of Tortola. And I think Bill's not here, Bill Bailey. The parallel here with the sort of Rotown and here today is that we needed an office and storage, and Barney at TMM donated one of his upstairs offices. The boat was kept out of the water on a hoist in the end of one of Barney's docks, and a dock box lay alongside. Again, similar scenario that we've had here for the past years. We operated from there and grew and grew and grew, and soon it was apparent that we needed more space. Negotiations with the government went from 91 to 93, and we were able to lease some land for peppercorn rent, and all fundraising efforts were then focused on building a base in Rotown. The community rallied, and by 1996 we had enough money to build what you all now know as VISAR Base. That was completed and officially opened in April of 97. So, Rotown is up and running. We have a base, we have a boat. Now what? We have Virgin Gorda. Whilst we've been evolving and doing all our things in Rotown, it's interesting to know that, as I pointed them on the party night the other night, the ne'er-do-wells in Virgin Gorda have been doing sterling work of their own. Ken Hewitt, who ran the chandlery here at the Digs, had his rather aptly named boat Rip-Off, which was their response vessel. So efforts in fundraising were now focused on getting them a dedicated vessel and a boathouse. This is back in the early 90s, as you probably remember. Initially, we were fortunate enough to negotiate the loan of the former customs boat from the then Controller of Customs, Katie Smith. So with the new engines and equipment, Gorda Peak 1 was launched in May of 1998. 2 years later, in March of 2000, we received and commissioned Gorda Peak 2, which was an ex-RNLI Arctic 21. Following this acquisition, Virgin Gorda then set about raising funds for a boathouse of their own. And it is to this end that I think we should recognise Mike and Marge Curry this morning, who are here. I think the Virgin Gorda guys know you, but my guys don't. So this fine couple donated their sailboat, the Hannah B, to VISAR, and said, why not raffle it? You could raise money. So we had a huge raffle event with that. I think tickets were $100 a piece. So we raised pushing mid-50, almost $60,000 from that sale. That money has sat in the bank, and Mike and Marge said that this is a Virgin Gorda and a boathouse, and a boat, and we want it to stay that, and we have honoured that request, and it's sat in the bank there, and hopefully made some interest, and all those funds, some of those funds are still there, I have to say, but it's down to, in no short order, to their kindness that we stand here today in front of this boathouse and structure today. And again, I made note at the dinner the other night. Virgin Gorda now stands, having got their boathouse and stuff, and a means of protecting their boat. The board, at the last board meeting, voted and paid the deposit on a new boat for Virgin Gorda. We're involved with the US Coast Guard and the RNLI for training. We're part of the US Virgin Islands disaster management as well as the BVI's disaster management, and we are part of their response for the airport in St. Thomas and part of their response for a dreaded cruise ship incident. Training with the doctors and the EMTs from People's Hospital and indeed the clinic over here, so that the guys know who we are, we know who they are, and it's a very harmonious relationship. And the guys in the clinics and the hospital know that when we deliver the casualties to them, the utmost care has been taken with them, and they can just get on and do what they need to do. So we've had royal visits too to the Royal base over there, and so in the future when we get our base over here, then I think we'll write to Her Majesty and ask if we can send one of her children over again to have a look around. So like I say, this is it's been a busy month. We've celebrated 20 years of Virgin Islands Search and Rescue, and I think that landmark of 20 years is very appropriate for today, as we stand here to dedicate this base. So it's taken 20 years to get here, but it's well deserved, well earned, and I'm proud to stand in front of you here and be a part of this ceremony today. And if I can ask His Excellency the Governor if he wants to say a few words. Thank you.
I will generally try and keep my words to very few. The President seldom that. But on the other hand, when he speaks, he's always full of fascinating information. Although I've heard that information twice, it is very, very uplifting to hear that history, to recognise what progress has been made in a relatively short time, from very small beginnings to very significant progress, very significant outcomes that we see here today. I like Phil, am very, very proud to be here today. I'm very proud to be associated in my role as patron of VISAR with this organisation. VISAR will always be, it is now and always will be, work in progress. It's an organisation which will always have to keep pace with growing expectations on what we hope will be the growing demand for their role here in the BVI, and I think without a doubt we can say that in the history that we just learned, VISAR fully matches the expectations that is placed on it. In my short time here, 2.5 years, I've seen the VISAR here in Virgin Gorda grow enormously from what was obviously a very, very temporary facility, and it looked very temporary, to what is now a much more permanent facility, which with next year, with already a considerably better boat loaned from, or passed over from Rotown, but next year they will get, as Phil has said, their very own boat, ordered specifically for Virgin Gorda and matching your Virgin Gorda specific needs. And I think that again is an illustration of the progress, the massive progress that's been made. And again, as Phil said, we all know that this is still only part of this is only here temporarily. We very much hope that with the support of all those, particularly the marina here, that what is now a quarter cabin will become much more temporary, a much more permanent structure. It's a wonderful story. It's a developing story. As I say, it's work in progress. I won't try and mention the names of all those that probably deserve to be mentioned today, starting, I think, we have to say, with Mike and Matt, who I've only just met, but all the many other people that are with us here this morning, obviously responders, the leadership of VISAR itself, exemplified very much by Phil, but I know a lot of other people work exceedingly hard, give a massive amount of their time to the success of VISAR. It's an example, I think, to us all. So, as I say, I won't attempt to mention specific names, but I know an awful lot of people and given an awful lot of time for the success that we see here this morning. I wish VISAR the same sort of success in the near future and the distant future that they've enjoyed in the recent past. I will lend my support in whatever way I can to that success. And once again, I congratulate VISAR and everybody involved with VISAR for the wonderful event that we're here to celebrate this morning. And again, I'm very, very proud to be part of that event. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everybody. Your Excellency, Governor and patron of the VISAR, Bill, all the other officers, members of the VISAR, ladies and gentlemen, children. It is a real pleasure for me to be here this morning to see this development. For 20 years, VISAR has done well, and thank God for VISAR. Give them a hand. Big hand. Yes. They have done very well, and we thank all the people who have supported VISAR in any way, big or small, that all help bring it to what it is today. And that we have the branch in Gorda, and it's going well, and I hope it will continue to do well. I don't think many people realize that if it was not for VISAR, we would not have had such a flourishing and developing yachting industry here. Because we have no coast guard, and these good people volunteer their services to go out to search and rescue people who get in difficulties on the sea. I myself am not call advisor. When people call me and say, well, boat has gone out and we haven't heard for a night what has happened. They haven't returned, they had no telephone. So I had to call VISAR and tell them, so then how they go, certainly. And I remember well when the VISAR started up, and I must say that it had a lot of hostility when it started up. And I spent many hours trying to convince people that this is something for the benefit of the Virgin Islands. Gradually, it came wrong, and I remember the difficulty I had in getting government to agree to give them a small subvention to assist them as they started to grow up. Yesterday, I had a discussion, and it was mentioned that for the opening of this house in Gorda is not a government affair. So therefore, it should be the media. But you know, media don't have time for small things like these, important things like these. And I was trying to show that it might not be a government affair, but it is something that is public, it is something that is needed in the community and should be supported. And therefore the government should support it in any way. Even the GIS coming here and taking pictures of what is happening today and putting them in the newspapers is a sign of support for it, and they need all the support they can get. I knew at one time I was called upon to help rescue VISAR. And that is because the owners or the manager of the at that time was not very friendly towards VISAR. And he even threatened to get him